The message arrived at 1:23 a.m. as I was staring at the ceiling of my downtown apartment, unable to sleep. Ava Monroe has signed with Pendleton and Fox Talent Management. No explanation, no warning, not even a call. I sat up slowly, the blue light from my phone casting shadows across the hardwood floor. My inbox was flooded, casting directors, publicists, press, all congratulating me on a move I hadn't made. It took a full minute to realize what had happened. She left me. Quietly. Strategically. Ava Monroe, the woman whose first headshots I paid for, whose scripts I read at 2 a.m, whose breakdowns I walked her through when she wanted to quit, had cut me out of the story we built together. I grabbed the bourbon from the shelf, poured more than I needed, and downed it in silence. It wasn't just business. It never was. 2 days later, I found myself outside Studio 14 on Melrose Avenue, where she was filming her new sci-fi blockbuster. I didn't come to beg. I came for closure, or maybe just to see if she'd look guilty when she saw me. But when she stepped out of her trailer, in those designer sunglasses, with a glam team orbiting around her, Ava didn't even flinch. "Nolan," she said flatly. No hug, no smile, just a nod like I was another reporter on her press tour. "You weren't going to tell me?" I asked. My voice was calm, too calm for the storm in my chest. Her lips parted slightly, but she didn't answer. Instead, she glanced at her assistant, some kid named Milo with an earpiece and too much gel in his hair. "We should talk later," she said. "This isn't the place." "I made you," I muttered before I could stop myself. Her expression didn't change. "You helped, but let's be honest, Nolan. I did the rest." And that was it. As she walked past me, I saw the truth in her gait. Ava had outgrown the man who believed in her. But here's what she didn't know. While she was chasing bigger sharks, I had already found my next star. And this time, I wasn't going to build someone to leave me. No, this time, I was building someone to ruin her. She sat in the farthest booth of the jazz bar, away from the soft spotlight on the stage, her notebook open and untouched. Her name was Callie Hart, 25, born in Maine, raised in silence. Her voice had a smoky cadence like it belonged in another decade, and her eyes, they didn't blink much. Not out of nerves, out of calculation. She watched the world like someone who already knew its ending. I found her the same week Ava walked out. Pure accident. Or fate. A friend of a friend introduced me to a small theater production in Echo Park. Widow's Melody. $90 tickets, folding chairs, no AC. I was ready to leave after the first act. Then Callie stepped on stage. She didn't act. She dissolved into her character like water in wine. For 70 minutes, the audience forgot who they were. After the show, she was the last to leave, wiping off her lipstick with the back of her hand, her heels in one hand, script in the other. "You ever think about going big?" I had asked her that night, leaning against my car, arms crossed. She didn't laugh, like most did. Didn't smile. "I think about burning the whole industry down and building it again," she said. That's when I knew. Now 2 months into working with her, she was ready. Not polished, not perfect. But that was the appeal. She wasn't a star yet. She was potential, raw and unpredictable. "I read the script," she said, voice low, tapping her fingers against her water glass. "It's smart, but it's scared. You want me to be the anti-Ava, not myself." That stung. "I'm not using you," I said, leaning forward. "But I'm not going to lie. The industry wants a story. You stepping up while she's at her peak? That's fuel." She stared, not blinking. "Let's burn it then." The plan was simple. Or at least it sounded that way. We'd land Callie a role in Blue Widow, a psychological thriller still in pre-production and currently auditioning leads. It wasn't Ava's world, not yet, but it was a stepping stone. The next day, I booked her a private audition, off-record, favors pulled, emails manipulated. I still had connections. People still owed me. She walked into the casting office in a loose black dress, no makeup, no earrings, just a script in those dead serious eyes. And she devoured it. Afterward, I met with the director, Patrick Lamont, in the parking lot. "She's green," he said, lighting a cigarette. "But there's something there, something unstable." Exactly, I replied. She doesn't perform. She bleeds. Lamont nodded. I'll bring her in for the second round, but if word gets out— It won't, I said. No press. No leaks. She's underground until we're ready. Back in my office, if you could call it that, I updated her profile, tweaked the reel, changed her stage name to Callie Hart. Clean, memorable. No past, no baggage. Ava had taken everything from me but one thing: my instincts. And those instincts were screaming that Callie wasn't just going to compete. She was going to haunt Ava. Later that week, I caught a panel on Ava's upcoming film. She was on stage in a silver gown, all charm and sharp edges. "How's it feel to be working with Pendleton and Fox?" a host asked. She laughed. "They get things done, fast and clean, no drama." The jab landed, but I smiled. Ava still thought this was over. She didn't know I was already making my next move, and she didn't know who was watching from the shadows. Callie didn't celebrate. She never did. After Patrick Lamont called to confirm her for callbacks, she didn't smile. She didn't text anyone. She just nodded slightly and muttered, "It begins." The second round of auditions would be live reads, intense rehearsals, partner scenes, chemistry tests. I warned her the competition would be brutal. Actresses with agents 10 times more connected than me. Ava had once clawed her way through these halls. But Callie wasn't Ava. She didn't play pretty. I met her at the rehearsal studio 3 days later. Her hair was tied in a rough knot, dark circles under her eyes, but she was focused, as if she'd already dissected the script down to the bones. "You sleep?" I asked. "Don't need to," she said. "I dream with my eyes open." Inside, the room was lined with mirrors and plastic chairs. The air was heavy with nerves, whispers, fake laughs, the tap of heels against laminate flooring. That's when I saw her. Sienna Blake, Ava's understudy from 2 years ago. Her agent must have caught wind of the project. Sienna didn't notice Callie at first, but once she did, her lips curled. "Didn't think they were letting background extras in today," she said. Callie didn't even flinch. "Didn't think they were still letting shadows audition either." Sienna blinked. I grinned, round one to Callie. Patrick Lamont entered 10 minutes later, a coffee in one hand and stress in his eyebrows. "All right, pair up. We're doing scene 23 first, the interrogation." Callie was paired with a tall actor named Eli Crow. Sharp jaw, soft voice, looked like he came straight out of an indie romance film. I sat on the floor against the wall, arms crossed, watching. The scene required tension, subtle emotional shifts, power-changing hands through dialogue. It was tricky. They started. Eli led the first lines, composed, calm. Callie sat across from him, her body tight like a loaded spring. When her turn came, her voice dropped, slow, venomous, a threat wrapped in velvet. Everyone in the room turned. Even Lamont looked up from his notes. "She's terrifying," Eli said after they finished. "In a good way." "She's not acting," I muttered. Later, I found Callie outside by the loading dock, sitting on an upside-down crate, chewing the edge of her script. "You just killed that scene." She shrugged. "Wasn't hard. He reminded me of my father." That was the first time she mentioned him. I waited. He was an actor too, failed hard, took it out on everyone else. I nodded slowly. It made sense. Her control, her restraint, her refusal to play the industry's game. She grew up watching the cost of pretending. "I'm not here to be famous," she said. "I'm here to prove I can survive where better people burned." That night, I returned home to a barrage of headlines. Ava at the Cannes Gala. Ava donating to climate charities. Ava dazzling in Valentino. And one thread that caught my eye. Who is the mystery actress Patrick Lamont is testing for his new film? No name, no photo. Just speculation. A quote from a studio insider about an unfamiliar but magnetic new face. I stared at the screen for a while, then picked up the phone. "You leaked it?" I asked Lamont. "I didn't name her." "But people talk, Nolan. They always talk." He was right, and so was I. The hunt had begun. The official offer came on a Wednesday. Patrick Lamont called me himself. "She's in," he said, his voice tight with excitement. "Callie's the lead." I didn't respond right away. I just stared out the window of my apartment, watching the sun try and fail to break through the LA haze. She'll have to come in Friday for fittings and initial press shots. Studio wants a teaser campaign, but no name attached yet. We can sell mystery. Keep her name out of it, I said. For now. You're playing a dangerous game, he warned. I always do, I said, and hung up. I called Callie next. She answered after 2 rings. You're in, I said simply. Silence. Then, I already knew. Of course she did. We met that night at my office. She stood by the window, arms crossed, staring down at the lights of Sunset Boulevard. She didn't smile, but her hands trembled slightly, just enough to reveal that some part of her still felt human. This is where it starts, she whispered. No, I corrected. This is where it changes. As I poured whiskey into 2 glasses, I thought of all the years I spent managing Ava. All the press tours, rehearsals, tears, red carpets. I thought of the late nights, the private coaching, the promises I made her when no one else believed. And then I remembered the look in Ava's eyes when she walked past me outside her trailer, like I was replaceable. Now, it was her turn to watch someone else rise. 2 days later, the teaser campaign dropped. A black and white photo of Callie's silhouette. Windblown hair, shadowed face, one hand reaching toward the camera. The caption read, "She's watching, and she remembers everything." Blue Widow, this fall. Within hours, film blogs lit up. Reddit threads spun wild theories. Studio plants dropped hints, unnamed but electric, a performance that'll rival Monroe's best. And then came the call. Not mine, Callie's. She walked into my office, holding her phone like it had just burned her. She called me. I looked up from my desk. Who? Ava. Time froze for a second. She said she wants to meet. No details. Just a place and time. Where? I asked. Vesper Lounge. Tonight. 8. Vesper Lounge. The place Ava used to celebrate every film wrap. Quiet. Expensive. Familiar. Callie looked at me like she expected me to say no. I'll be there, she added quickly. No, I said. You'll go, but not alone. Vesper was dimly lit, steeped in luxury. Ava was already there when we arrived. Corner booth, hair pulled back, lips painted blood red. She wore control like perfume. She didn't rise when Callie approached, just motioned to the seat across from her. You're better than I thought, Ava said. That scene in the trailer. You weren't acting. I don't act, Callie replied. They stared at each other. 2 different storms. Ava's perfectly curated. Callie's ready to erupt. I know Nolan's behind this, Ava said finally. And I know he's using you. You're a tool. Callie smiled. Tools can cut deep if you don't hold them right. Ava's eyes narrowed. He'll toss you the second you stop being useful. That's what he does. Is that what he did to you? Callie shot back. The table went quiet. For a moment, even the lounge's jazz track seemed to lower its volume. Ava leaned in. You don't know what this world is. You'll burn out before the film even wraps. Maybe, Callie said calmly, but at least someone will watch me burn. She stood, turned, and walked toward the exit. Every head in the room now watching the woman they didn't yet recognize. I followed her out. You wanted her to confront you, I said once we hit the parking lot. She wanted to see the threat up close, Callie replied. I let her. Later that night, I got a call from an unknown number. Careful how you play this, a male voice said. You're poking the wrong bear. Who is this? A warning. Click. I stared at the phone, heart suddenly hammering. I wasn't sure if it was Ava's new agent or someone deeper in the machine. But one thing was clear. They knew about Callie now, and they weren't going to play fair. They moved fast. I shouldn't have been surprised. The next morning, Lamont called me from a blocked number. His voice was strained, laced with irritation. Studio wants to delay Callie's announcement. What? I said, already standing. They're worried about optics. There's talk about replacing her, quietly. I didn't even blink. Did Ava push for this? I don't know, he lied, poorly. They already signed the contract. They're trying to find a clause, something they can squeeze through. I hung up before I said something I couldn't unsay. For the first time since this all began, the fear crept in. Not panic. I've been in this town too long for that. But a deep, simmering rage. I knew exactly how this worked. You don't have to ruin someone in Hollywood. You just have to delay them until the buzz dies. Callie walked into my office 10 minutes later, wearing a black hoodie and no expression. They're trying to kill it, aren't they? I nodded. They're slow walking you into obscurity. She sat across from me, folded her hands, and stared through the wall like she could see the entire city turning against her. I'll give them a reason to speed up, she said. I narrowed my eyes. Meaning? I'm not going to let them paint me out of this. That night, Callie showed up at a red carpet premiere. Not hers. Not invited. She wore a silver silk dress. No jewelry, no handler, no publicist. Just a walking headline waiting to happen. And it did. She stepped onto the carpet midway through the press run, right as Ava Monroe was posing under the lights. Flashbulbs exploded. Reporters buzzed. Paparazzi turned. Someone whispered her name. Callie Hart. She didn't speak. She didn't smile. She just stood in the camera's view and let the chaos speak for her. Ava turned at the last second. Their eyes locked across the space. I was watching the live stream on 3 different devices from my apartment. The comments section was pure fire. Is that her? That's the girl from the Blue Widow teaser. Why is she here? Is she crashing? She looks like Ava's ghost. By midnight, #Callie Hart was trending. Studio execs called me the next morning, their tone more curious than angry. She took a risk, one of them admitted, and it paid off. You still want to replace her? I asked. Silence. Then, let's see how the weekend plays out. Callie had made her move, but it came with a cost. The next day, she found her car keyed. One word scratched into the side door: fraud. And her apartment's front door was left slightly ajar when she came home from rehearsal. Nothing was taken. Nothing was broken. Just a single envelope left on her kitchen table. Inside, a single photo. Black and white. Her as a child, maybe 8, sitting next to a man whose face had been scratched out with ink. She brought it to me without saying a word. I recognized the look in her eyes. Not fear. Not yet. But the echo of something old. Is it him? I asked. She didn't answer. Later that week, I got drinks with an old contact, Drew Mason, a fixer who'd once buried 3 cheating scandals and 1 overdose for a singer who couldn't keep it together. Pendleton and Fox are throwing everything at this, Drew said, sliding me a USB drive. Fake whispers about Callie's past, money to tabloids, industry plants stirring doubt on message boards. They're scared, I muttered. They should be. She's a wildfire. I pocketed the drive. What do they want? They want her gone before she gets a trailer, before her name hits the screen. They're too late, I said. She's already infected the narrative. Drew grinned. So what's next? I raised my glass. We push harder. The studio didn't pull her. They couldn't. Not after her red carpet stunt and the viral coverage that followed. The mystery was working, and mystery sells. But Callie had gone quiet. Too quiet. She didn't respond to texts, didn't return calls. And when I stopped by her apartment, she didn't answer the door. I knew what was happening. I'd seen it before. Talent folding in on themselves when the pressure hits bone. But Callie wasn't like the others. She didn't break. She retreated. So I waited. 3 days later, she showed up at my office unannounced. Her hair was down. No hoodie. Eyes red from something that wasn't sleep. I know who sent the photo, she said, voice low. I sat down. Talk. My father's dead, been dead for years. But that picture, it's from the last time I saw him, a court-ordered visit in Boston. Who would have access to that? She hesitated. My aunt, Valerie. She kept all the old family records. We haven't spoken in over 10 years. Is she the one behind this? Callie shook her head. No, she wouldn't even know how. She paused. But she might have sold it. Or someone found her. We sat in silence for a moment, the tension pulsing between us like a bad heartbeat. Why didn't you tell me about any of this? I asked. Because I didn't want to be pitied. You think that's what this is? I snapped. Pity? You're the only one actually fighting back. Everyone else in this town plays the game. You? You flipped the board. She didn't respond, but something in her eyes flickered, the kind of vulnerability she hated showing. Meanwhile, Drew was digging. I met him at a private poker room off Ventura. We sat in a corner booth under cheap stained glass, and he handed me a manila envelope. Got a name, he said. Elliot Crane. Used to be Ava's publicist back in the day. Fired when she signed with Pendleton. I opened the file. Elliot's face stared up at me. Tired eyes, thin lips, the kind of man who knew where bodies were buried. He's freelance now, still bitter. Word is, Ava's team hired him under the table to dig up dirt on Callie, make it look like it came from another source. Can you confirm it? I asked. I can get you a meeting, but it'll cost. I'm already paying, I muttered. That weekend, Callie was scheduled for her first official photo shoot with the studio. Glossy stills, behind-the-scenes material, all timed to hit the trades ahead of the trailer drop. I showed up early. She was already there, seated under the lights, makeup half done, staring into the mirror like it owed her something. Ready? I asked. She looked at me, then back at her reflection. No, but I'm doing it anyway. The photographer, some fast-talking Londoner named Pierce, began snapping. You ever done anything like this? He asked. Just funerals, she said flatly. He blinked. You're serious? She didn't answer, but the camera loved her, not in the way it loved Ava, polished, perfect, safe. No. Callie's face told a story before she ever opened her mouth. She wasn't selling a fantasy. She was the reckoning. And the studio knew it. Within hours, the photos were everywhere. Banner headlines, social reposts, stylists dissecting her dress, think pieces calling her the dark horse of the season. Ava's silence was deafening, until it broke. Monday morning, Ava posted a photo on her socials, a close-up of her hand holding a film award captioned, "Earned, not inherited." The comments exploded. This about Callie? Shade much? Jealousy doesn't look good on her. Callie saw it too. She didn't say a word, just forwarded it to me with one line. Tell them I'll do the interview. I paused. We'd been avoiding the press, keeping her mystique alive. But now it was time to speak. You sure? I wrote back. Let's burn the rest of the silence. The set was minimal. A black backdrop, a velvet armchair, one spotlight. Just enough to frame the moment but not soften it. The network had begged for glam, background music, something theatrical. We said no. The interview had to feel real, not rehearsed, not polished. Just Callie, face to face with the camera, pulling back the curtain. 5 minutes, the producer called. Callie sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, her face unreadable. The makeup artist hovered, but she waved her away. No retouching, she murmured. You don't have to answer anything you're not comfortable with, I told her quietly. She turned her head toward me, the corners of her mouth twitching. That's the difference between me and her. I want them to know who I am. The camera rolled. The interviewer, a woman named Sylvia Grant, leaned in. Professional, poised, the kind of person who could make tragedy sound like an anecdote. Callie, she began gently, the world has seen your face for only a few days, but already you're a name on everyone's lips. Tell us, who is Callie Hart? A pause. Then, I'm someone who wasn't supposed to be here. The answer hung in the air. Callie spoke slowly, deliberately. She didn't cry. She didn't embellish. She told them about growing up in a house where silence was safer than truth, about leaving Maine with nothing but a suitcase and a script, about rejection, hunger, failure, not the kind that's glamorous in retrospect, but the kind that bruises your ribs and makes you forget why you started. I was never interested in being adored, she said. I was interested in being seen. Then came the pivot. Sylvia glanced at her notes, hesitant. There's been speculation. Some say this rise has come too fast, that there are people trying to push you out already. Do you think that's true? Callie met her gaze without blinking. I think some people are used to being the only one in the spotlight, and when that light starts to shift, they panic. Sylvia pressed. You're referring to Ava Monroe? Silence. Then, I'm referring to anyone who confuses ownership with entitlement. I don't owe anyone my place. I earned it. By the time the interview ended, Callie's name was the top trending search across all platforms. But that wasn't the best part. The best part came hours later, when Drew texted me. He's agreed to talk. Elliot, noon, back room of Calhoun's diner. Elliot Crane looked like a man who hadn't slept since Ava's last film premiere. Thin, twitchy, eyes constantly scanning the exits. You alone? He asked me. I slid into the booth. I'm not the one who needs to worry about being followed. He smirked. So you want dirt on your old client? Never thought I'd see you playing defense. I'm not looking for revenge, I said. I'm looking for protection. He nodded slowly. Smart. Because the people Ava runs with now, they don't just play dirty. They pay others to dig the grave, too. You leaked the photo, I said. The one of Callie. Didn't leak it. Just passed it to someone who would. Why? Because they told me to. Who? He hesitated. Not Ava, not directly. Someone from Pendleton. Name doesn't matter. They wanted Callie's background mined, made messy, made loud. Told me if I found anything that could be weaponized, they'd double my fee. Did Ava know? Elliot gave a bitter laugh. She knew enough to look the other way. She always did when it suited her. He slid a flash drive across the table. Emails, messages, timelines. Use it how you want, but do it fast. Before they bury me too. I drove straight to Callie's place. She was watching the interview replay on her laptop when I arrived. They're eating it up, she said without looking up. You just started a fire that's not going to stop burning. She finally looked at me. Then let's burn everything they built on lies. I dropped the flash drive on the table. This is what they're afraid of. She stared at it for a long moment, then said quietly, Good. It wasn't about vengeance. It never was. It was about truth. And finally, I had it in my hands. The files on Elliot's drive were worse than expected. A dozen email threads, phone logs, burner accounts traced back to shell PR firms, even fake fan accounts fueling Reddit gossip and article comments. Ava hadn't signed anything. Of course she hadn't. But the chain was clear. Every smear, every rumor, every invasive detail about Callie's past, all approved by Pendleton and Fox. We had enough to blow them open, but it had to be surgical, strategic. If we come at them all at once, I told Callie, they'll spin it. Say it's desperation. Say you're trying to discredit your competition. Callie leaned back in the chair across from me, her arms folded, jaw tense. So what's the plan? She asked. Controlled leaks, one story at a time. Let the media do what it does best. Pick a side and drag the other through fire. She smirked. Let's hope they're as bloodthirsty as they pretend to be. The first leak hit 2 nights later. An anonymous tip delivered to Insider Rewind, one of the most notorious Hollywood exposé sites. Headline, Pendleton PR scandal? Allegations of orchestrated smear campaign surface against rising actress. The article included partial quotes from emails between Pendleton staffers, vague references to a non-compliant newcomer, and insider claims that Ava's team was pushing to control the narrative ahead of awards season. No names. Not yet, but just enough detail for the public to connect the dots. Within hours, Twitter ignited. So Ava's people are threatened. Who else would benefit from silencing Callie Hart? This smells like industry sabotage. The damage was done, not catastrophic, but visible. And Ava? She went dark. No stories, no appearances, no tweets, which only made people dig deeper. The second leak came 3 days later, a more damning one. Screenshots of internal Pendleton memos discussing ways to reroute attention from Hart's rising engagement metrics and how to rehabilitate Monroe's relevance. One particularly cruel line read, "We need to remind audiences why Ava was chosen in the first place." People read between the lines, and they didn't like what they saw. Fan accounts that once championed Ava now turned on her. Queen Ava hashtags were replaced with snake emojis. Editorials questioned her legacy. Talk shows invited analysts to debate if the old guard was afraid of the new. And then came the real punch. Blue Widow's trailer dropped. Callie was no longer a shadow in a teaser. She was front and center, eyes wide with terror, voice trembling in a chilling monologue, pain and rage etched across every frame. It was breathtaking. The final scene cut to black as her voice whispered, "They took everything from me. Now I'm taking it back." The trailer ended with a single word. Heart. No more mystery, no more silence. The next day, the film's YouTube page crashed from traffic. Ava responded, finally, but not with grace. She posted a message on her private Instagram account, which someone leaked within minutes. They built her out of spite, not talent. Enjoy your 15 minutes. It was deleted within the hour, but screenshots spread like wildfire. Pendleton tried to spin it, claimed it was fake, claimed she'd been hacked. But Ava's silence after spoke volumes. That night, I got another call, from Elliot. "They know I talked," he said. "I'm being followed. Someone's been in my apartment. They took my hard copies." "You're leaving town," I said. "Tonight." "I've already packed. But listen, there's one last thing. Ava didn't just let this happen. She wanted Callie gone from day one. I heard her say it. Not in those exact words, but close enough." "Why?" I asked. "Ego?" "Fear," he replied. "Callie's not a threat to her career. She's a threat to her myth." I hung up and sat in silence. Callie wasn't just winning. She was replacing. And Ava knew it. They came for her in silk gloves. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. Thick envelope, embossed seal, a name neither of us expected. Mireille Hanover, Hollywood royalty. Chairwoman of the Hanover Collective, a media dynasty that owned 3 studios, 2 networks, and a streaming platform that practically dictated awards season. Mireille didn't meet people. She summoned them. The note was handwritten. "Miss Hart, I would be honored to host you for tea. Thursday, 4 p.m. Hanover Estate. Let's discuss your future." No publicist, no agent CCD, just her. Callie stared at the note like it was ticking. "What does she want?" she asked. I didn't answer. We both knew. The Hanover Estate sat behind iron gates on the edge of the hills, guarded by manicured silence and cameras you couldn't see. I offered to go with her. She declined. "She'll test me," Callie said. "She'll want to see if I flinch." She wore no jewelry, no designer dress, just a navy suit and a simple bun. Controlled, deliberate. I waited outside in the car, watching the minutes drag. When she returned 90 minutes later, she didn't speak until we were halfway down the canyon road. "She offered me everything," Callie said flatly. "A 3-film deal. Guaranteed awards push, image control, press strategy, fashion contracts. All wrapped in gold." "And the catch?" I asked. "She wants to shape the narrative. Soften my image. Turn me into a version they can sell to everyone." I nodded. "The velvet cage." "She said she'd protect me from Ava, from Pendleton, that the industry's ready for a new queen, but she wants to pick the crown." I glanced over. "What did you say?" "I said I'd think about it." That wasn't the answer I wanted. "But I won't say yes," she added after a beat. "I don't want to be made. I want to make myself." Later that night, Mireille called me. Her voice was smooth as honey, as disarming as it was dangerous. "You've built something real," she said. "But even real things can be swallowed by this machine. You know that, Nolan. I didn't realize you watched this closely. I watch everything, especially storms. Callie isn't a storm. She's the reckoning." A pause. Then, "She's also young and alone, and that makes her vulnerable. You'd be wise to remind her that there are worse things than being someone's puppet, like being disposable." Before I could respond, she hung up. The pressure was mounting. Critics began calling Callie the next Monroe, but not everyone meant it kindly. Every smile was dissected, every outfit debated. One outlet published a front page comparing Ava's Cannes debut to Callie's interview stills, line by line, angle by angle. And then came the whispers, that Callie was difficult, that she was cold on set, that she refused to take direction. All lies, but dangerous ones. I cornered Lamont outside the Blue Widow studio lot. "Where's it coming from?" I demanded. He looked around. "Half the crew's been approached. They're offering bonuses for dirt, just rumors, anything." Ava's people are bleeding influence into every crack. So shut it down. You think I haven't tried? He hissed. But they've got long fingers, Nolan. And they're betting she breaks. She won't. Then you better start preparing for what happens when she doesn't. And they still come for her. The next morning, Callie received a package at her apartment. No return address, no message inside. Just a small velvet box. Inside, a pair of earrings. Ruby studs, identical to the ones Ava wore during her first breakout premiere. Callie brought it straight to me. Her hands were steady. Her voice was not. They want me to know I'm just a shadow, she said. A copy, a placeholder. I shook my head. They're wrong. You're the eclipse. That night she posted a photo. No caption. Just the earrings, resting in the palm of her hand, with her shadow falling long behind it. The internet lit up. The world had drawn its line. And the war wasn't cold anymore. There was something about silence, the kind that stretched too long, that always signaled danger. Callie had grown quieter. Not distant, not absent, just watching, always listening, calculating. I knew she was waiting for something, and whatever it was, it arrived on a Thursday. The email was short, no header, no signature, just a time and location. Suite 231, Trident Hotel. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. alone. She showed it to me without a word. Could be a trap, I said. It is a trap, she replied. But I want to see who said it. I tried to talk her out of it. She wouldn't budge. So I did the only thing I could. I followed her from a distance, armed, paranoid, and already one step behind. The Trident Hotel was polished, discreet, and expensive enough to keep the press at bay. Callie wore black, pantsuit, no jewelry, her hair slicked back, her face neutral. She looked like someone stepping into court, not a hotel room. I waited 2 floors down with Drew Mason in a supply closet we'd bribed a bellhop for. Radio in hand, gun tucked beneath my coat. It shouldn't have come to this. But power doesn't surrender. It stalks. Inside Suite 231, Callie found Ava Monroe, alone, wearing silk, drinking wine, and smiling like she'd already won. No cameras, Ava said, motioning around. No publicists, just us. Callie didn't sit. What do you want? Ava stood, walked slowly toward the window, her heels barely making a sound. You're not what I expected, she said. Back then, when Nolan started whispering about some new talent, I thought, maybe he's bluffing, trying to make me jealous, stir the old loyalty pot. Callie didn't respond. But then you happened. The teaser, the interview, the eyes. Ava turned. The world started looking at you the way it used to look at me. You afraid of that? Ava laughed. I'm bored by it. This game doesn't end with who's on top today. It ends with who controls the board. She crossed the room, poured a second glass of wine, and offered it to Callie. She refused. You're not here to threaten me, Callie said. You're here to ask me to fold. Not fold, Ava replied. Merge. That word hung in the air like poison. I talked to Hanover, she continued. I talked to the studios. You think you're free because you said no once? Everyone has a price. Everyone has a limit. Callie stepped closer, her voice steady. I'm not here to last forever. I'm here to matter while I do. Cute, Ava sneered. But you'll get tired. They always do. And when you do, they'll tear you apart. Callie's gaze didn't waver. Then let them try. She turned, walked out, never looked back. Ava didn't stop her, because she didn't need to. Not yet. I met Callie in the elevator. She didn't speak. Neither did I. But I knew. Something in her had shifted, and Ava had just declared war with a handshake. The next day, the whispers turned into thunder. An anonymous source close to the production of Blue Widow confirms growing tensions on set between lead actress Callie Hart and the director. Is the pressure cracking Hollywood's new darling? One crew member says she's emotionally volatile. Another claims she's a shadow of Ava without the grace. None of it was true, but it didn't have to be. Lamont called me furious. The studio's nervous. They're asking if she's a liability. They want to know if we have a backup. A backup? I spat. She's the film. They'll ruin it before they admit they're being outplayed. I'll handle it. You better, he warned. Because if Ava's got Hanover and Pendleton whispering behind doors, Callie won't survive this long enough to hit opening night. That night, Callie posted a single video, unfiltered, on her own terms. No glam, no lighting, just her. To the people whispering about me from dark rooms, come into the light. If you think I'm dangerous now, imagine what I'll be when you can't touch me anymore. Overnight, it went viral, not because of the threat, but because of the truth in her eyes. She wasn't asking to be liked anymore. She was demanding to be heard. And for once, Hollywood listened. The board meeting was off-record, off-grid, and full of cold hands in warm suits. 7 studio execs, 1 legal advisor, a single agenda, heart contingency planning. Lamont called me just after he left. His voice was dry. They're preparing to pull her. I didn't even ask what for. It didn't matter. When they decide someone's too loud, too proud, too uncontrolled, they don't argue. They erase. You need to say something, he said. They're spinning faster than she can stabilize. I've protected her from the beginning, I said. I won't stop now. Then stop being a shadow. Get loud. I hung up, but his words echoed. That night, I opened a new document on my laptop. It started with her name, Ava Monroe, then mine, Nolan Wright, then everything in between. 5 years of my life. 5 years of sacrifice. The deals I brokered. The roles I fought for. The contracts I rewrote behind closed doors to keep her sane and safe. And then how she cut me out. Not just professionally, but personally. No call. No meeting. Just a signed transfer to Pendleton and silence. I wrote it all. I didn't write to destroy her. I wrote because the world needed to see what power does when it's afraid. And maybe if I was honest about how I let myself be used, maybe Callie wouldn't have to be. I published it on a Saturday, not through press, not filtered by PR, just a direct post, long form, raw, titled, "They replace you before you know you're gone." Within 3 hours, it had over 300,000 reads. By dawn, it passed 2 million. And Ava? She stayed silent, because this wasn't a scandal, this was a confession. And confessions are harder to spin. Callie came to my apartment that morning, no words at first, just a long look across the room. "You said everything," she whispered. "I should have said it sooner." She sat on the edge of the desk, crossing her arms. "You think it's going to save me?" "No. But it might keep the knife from hitting your back before the premiere." She smirked. "Then let's push it in their front instead." The studio released a statement 2 days later. "We support Callie Hart's commitment to the project and condemn the hostile environment that has developed around her performance. She remains our lead." It wasn't an apology, but it was surrender. The public had chosen, and they'd chosen fire. But Ava wasn't done. On the 4th day after my essay, I received a plain white envelope. No return, no postmark. Inside, a single flash drive, no label. I plugged it into a separate machine in my office, firewalled, air-gapped. I'd been in the game too long to play it stupid. It was footage, a recording. Callie, alone, at a bar, drinking, crying, talking to someone, a man whose face was obscured. The audio was grainy, but you could hear enough. I don't know if I'm better. I just don't want to be her. I'd rather disappear than turn into her. It was old. Early days, probably the 2nd week after I met her. Someone had been watching her even back then. I called Drew. "She's planting seeds," he confirmed, trying to make it look like Callie's unraveling, that she was always unstable. This is their last card. She recorded this herself? No, but someone did, and it's about to leak. I sat down with Callie that night and showed her. She didn't cry, didn't flinch. "That's who I was," she said, "and they're using it to punish who I became. They want you to panic, to spiral." She looked up. "Then let's flip it. Let's show them that survival isn't shameful." The next morning she posted it herself, the full clip, her voice trembling, breaking. Caption: "Yes, I was scared. Yes, I was broken. But I still showed up. I'm still here. And that makes me dangerous." The internet exploded. Hashtags surged, celebrities reposted, fans flooded her page with solidarity, and Ava? Ava made the mistake of commenting, "Some of us didn't need pity to become strong." It was over. She deleted it within 5 minutes, but it was screenshotted, shared, immortalized. Her throne cracked, and this time, even her loyalists walked away. The night of the premiere felt more like a funeral procession than a red carpet. It was unseasonably cold for Los Angeles. Gray skies, heavy wind, the kind of night that blew fake smiles sideways. I arrived an hour early, standing under the neon blue glow of the Arcadian Theater's marquee. The title Blue Widow blinked in looping light above the crowd. Security was tight. Reporters already forming 2 lines, one for the film and one for the war it had come to represent. Ava was expected last, fashionably late, of course. But Callie? She arrived first. No entourage, no handlers, just her. She stepped out of a black car wearing a deep violet gown, minimal, sharp at the edges, like something worn to a battlefield, not a gala. The crowd erupted. People yelled her name. Reporters leaned in like vultures and children at once. Callie didn't speak. She just walked forward. Every step a message, every glance a warning. I followed at a distance, letting her take it alone. It was her war now, and she was winning. Inside, the theater buzzed with a tension no one could name, but everyone could feel. Then came the whisper, "She's here." Ava. She stepped into the light with precision, as if timing her entrance to the second. Her dress was white, the same shade she wore during her breakout premiere 5 years ago. A callback, a provocation. She posed. She smiled. She waved. But something had changed. The applause was softer. The cameras were still, because everyone was watching Callie. The screening began. The opening sequence of Blue Widow was silent. Callie in close-up, her eyes scanning a desolate street. Wind, shadows, a slow fade into the dialogue. The room was still. Her performance wasn't flashy. It was devastating, real, like she had lived every breath of that character's suffering. I watched the audience more than I watched the screen. They leaned forward when she cried. They whispered when she screamed. When the lights came up, the silence broke into thunder. Standing ovation. Unanimous. The critics, the cynics, the doubters, even the studio heads, those who once called her unstable, were on their feet. But Ava didn't rise. She sat stiff, clapping slowly, her face frozen in a practiced smile that no longer fit the room around her. The cameras caught it, every second. After the screening, we gathered in the reception hall. Ava approached. I stepped between her and Callie instinctively, but Callie put a hand on my arm. "I've got it," she said. They faced each other under a chandelier dripping crystal. "You did well," Ava said. Her voice was neutral, rehearsed. "You were better than I thought," Callie smiled. "That's your problem, Ava. You never thought I was anything." Ava's jaw clenched. "You think this means you've won?" "I didn't come here to win. I came here to matter." A pause. Then, "You said I was a copy of you," Callie continued. "But I was never trying to be you. You were trying to stay me, raw, hungry, desperate to prove something. But you can't hold on to it, because you forgot who you were before they put your name in lights." Ava said nothing. Callie leaned in slightly. "I haven't." And with that, she walked away, leaving Ava in the shadow of the girl she'd tried to erase. Later that night, I found Callie on the rooftop, alone, staring out over the city like it owed her something. "You did it," I said. She shook her head. "No, I just survived long enough to say something that mattered. I think that's what a doing it means." She smiled. For once, it wasn't sharp or distant, just tired and proud. "I don't want to be worshipped," she said. "I just want to keep telling the truth." I nodded. "Then I'll keep making sure they hear you." The morning after the premiere, headlines blazed across every platform. Callie Hart stuns in Blue Widow. A star is no longer rising. She's here. Ava Monroe's reaction to premiere raises eyebrows. Has the torch been passed? Industry reckoning, Hart's truth, Monroe's facade, and what comes next. No scandals, no spin, just recognition. For the first time, no one questioned if Callie deserved it. They just knew. For the first time in months, I didn't wake up to fire. No calls, no threats, no hashtags bleeding red. Just silence. I made coffee and watched the sunrise from my apartment window, the city still asleep beneath it. I had forgotten what peace tasted like. Then my phone buzzed. Callie. They offered me 3 scripts, all different, all starring me. I smiled. Me. All garbage? Callie. One's promising, one's bait, one's a trophy. Me. You know which one to burn. Callie. Already lit. She didn't ask me what to do. She wasn't waiting for advice. She was telling me she could choose now. That was everything. Later that week, we met at the cafe near the Echo Park Theater, the same one where we'd met after her first underground play. She wore sunglasses, but not to hide, just to exist in the daylight. How's it feel? I asked. Like I climbed a mountain, she said, and now I see 10 more behind it. I nodded. You ready to keep climbing? She looked at me, and for a moment I saw the version of her that started this. Raw, jagged, afraid to hope. But it was gone in a blink. Not climbing, she said. Building. We talked about the offers, the real ones. Directors who wanted her, not her image. Writers who said they wrote her into the script, not just a role she could fill. But more than that, we talked about creating something of our own. A production house, independent, real. Stories that didn't need to pass through 10 layers of compromise. They'll come for it, I warned. They always come when you make noise outside the fence. She leaned forward. Then let's build a place without one. Meanwhile, Ava had vanished. No press, no appearances, no new project announcements. Her last statement was weeks old. I'm taking time to recalibrate. But recalibration in this town is just a synonym for retreat. Drew called me, half amused. Word is, Pendleton's moving on. She burned too many bridges. She'll resurface, I said. Probably, but next time it won't be on her terms. I didn't celebrate her fall. I mourned it. Because Ava wasn't evil. She was a warning. A mirror held up to a system that promised power to women, then punished them for using it. She didn't fall because of Callie. She fell because she thought her crown was welded on. Callie and I sat in a late-night diner the next weekend, scribbling plans on napkins. She wanted a 3-film arc based on survivor archetypes, not victims, but women who fought back. I don't want to make another redemption story, she said. I want to make a reckoning story. Think anyone will fund it? I asked. I will, she said, with or without them. And the truth was, she could now. Her name had weight, her words had reach, and more importantly, people listened when she spoke, not because she yelled, but because she refused to whisper. At the end of the month, we hosted a quiet party. No media, no red carpet, just 30 people in a rented gallery space downtown. Writers, independent producers, 2 old theater directors, a few faces I hadn't seen in years, faces that used to matter before fame taught them to hide. Callie stood on a small stage, wine in hand. She didn't give a speech. She just said, "Here's to not being made, here's to making." And everyone raised a glass. After the party, as we locked up, she paused in the doorway. You ever wonder what would have happened if I never auditioned? She asked. Every day, I said. She smiled. Funny how all of this came from a woman who used to think she wasn't enough. You were never not enough, I replied. You were just surrounded by people who didn't know how to see it. She looked at me for a long second, and then said softly, "Thank you for being one of the ones who did." I didn't answer. I just watched her walk into the night, not as a star, as something harder to define, and far more permanent. The first office was small, a corner space on the 3rd floor of a half-abandoned art building near Silver Lake. Exposed brick, peeling paint, a window that stuck when you tried to open it. It was perfect. I watched Callie run her fingers along the chipped windowsill as if she were trying to read the history in the dust. There's something poetic about this, she said. We could get glass walls, modern furniture. You'd look like a proper executive. She shook her head. No, this feels more like where stories begin. We had a name, Dawnline pictures. It wasn't about daybreak. It was about that moment just before it, when everything is shadow, but something's about to change. That's where she lived. That's what she represented. The company wasn't just a vanity label. We set terms. We announced our first project, not a sequel, not a studio darling, but a stripped-down two-character script from a little-known playwright who'd been rejected by every major platform for being too quiet. Quiet was the point. We didn't want explosions. We wanted echo. The press circled fast. Callie Hart launches Dawnline. Is this the start of a Hollywood power shift? From outsider to owner, the actress who refused to be managed. A few tried to bait the Ava angle. Sources say Monroe is seeking a comeback vehicle. Ava versus Callie, round 2? But the fire was out. Ava hadn't posted in over 30 days. Her agency scrubbed her from their homepage. I heard through Drew that she moved upstate. Private cabin, no press, no plan. And oddly, I didn't hate that for her. She'd been built like a monument. When she crumbled, it was because no one told her how to be a person again. Callie never let them make her a monument. She bled in public. She rose in pieces. That's what saved her. The first investor meeting was at a sushi bar in Westwood. 2 producers, 1 indie distributor, and a lawyer who spoke in terms of branding elasticity. Callie listened, smiled, and at the end said, "Here's my offer. I keep control. We split profits, and if I say no, there's no buyout. Just silence." They blinked. One asked, "Do you think the industry's ready for that kind of voice?" She leaned forward. "I don't care if it is. I'm not asking." We left with a handshake. They signed within the week. Dawnline's website went live the following Monday. Homepage, black background, white text. We don't make content, we make consequences. It trended for 48 hours straight. One night, 2 weeks later, Callie called me. "You remember that first casting session?" she asked. "The one where Sienna tried to break you with a smirk?" "Yeah, I was terrified. I thought if I cracked even once, it would all collapse." "It didn't." She paused. "I don't think I've ever said it out loud, but I owe you for this." "No," I said. "You owe me nothing. I gave you a path. You made the run." Silence. Then, "You're not just part of the story, Nolan. You're the first one who told me I had one worth telling." I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't. At the end of the month, we held a press event at the new office. Standing room only, plastic cups of wine, and a borrowed microphone. Callie wore a black blazer, minimal makeup, all eyes. She didn't give a speech. She stood next to a newly installed glass door with the name etched in gold. Callie Hart, founder. She touched it once, lightly, then turned to the crowd and said, "I didn't come here to be seen. I came here to see differently. Let's build something real." Applause, not thunderous, not wild, just steady. The kind of applause people give when they know they're in the room where something begins. After everyone left, I stayed behind to lock up. Callie sat on the windowsill, sipping wine, staring out over the twinkling streetlights. She looked tired, but not burdened, just full. She glanced at me. "You ever think we were supposed to fail?" "All the time. And yet here we are." I raised my glass. "To the story after the storm." She smiled. "That's the only one I ever wanted to tell." The letter came by courier. Heavy parchment. No return address. Inside, an invitation. "You are cordially invited to a private screening of The Violet Orchard, written, produced, and directed by Ava Monroe." I stared at it for a full minute, then reread it twice. It was dated for the following Thursday. Private estate in Sonoma. Only 30 guests, no press. I didn't tell Callie right away. I wasn't sure if I should go. But when I finally did, she just tilted her head. "You should," she said. "Why?" "Because some endings don't come with applause. Sometimes they just come with a door you finally close yourself." The estate was remote. Vineyard to one side, forest to the other. Minimalist architecture. Stone paths. A silence that felt intentional. Inside the private screening room, I recognized half a dozen faces. Former directors, old producers, a critic who used to write Venom in Velvet. Ava arrived last. Hair tied up, no makeup, simple black dress. She greeted no one, just pressed play. The film began. It wasn't great, but it was hers. Raw, stripped down, confessional. A woman moving through stages of grief, not for a death, but for a self she could no longer hold on to. I watched her more than I watched the film. Her hands clenched. Her eyes avoided the screen. When it ended, no one clapped. No one needed to. She stood in front of us and said only one thing. I made this so I could stop pretending I was still her. Then she left the room, and just like that, Ava Monroe walked off her own stage. When I got back to LA, the first thing I did was call Callie. How was it? She asked. It was the most honest thing she's ever made. Callie didn't respond for a few seconds. Then, good. 3 months later, Dawnline began production on its first feature. Title, No One Saw Her Coming. Callie wasn't the lead. She wasn't even in it. She directed. And she hired 2 unknowns to star. A waitress and a theater actor. Sound familiar? I want someone else to feel what I felt, she told me. To realize they don't have to beg to be chosen. I sat behind the monitors on day 1 of filming and watched her give notes. Quietly, firmly, with empathy. And then I realized she didn't just survive the system. She rewrote it. A few weeks into production, she asked me to walk with her through the set after dark. The lights were off, the props half-packed, the camera gear tucked in corners like sleeping animals. She sat on the edge of a low platform and looked up at the scaffolding. You think it'll last? She asked. The film? All of it. I thought for a moment. No, I said. Nothing in this town ever does. But what you're teaching, that might. She smiled. Then that's enough. I received an email that night from someone I hadn't heard from in over a year. Mireille Hanover. Short and simple. She chose legacy. I underestimated her. That won't happen again. I deleted it without replying, because we weren't in the same game anymore. We were playing one no one else had the rules to. The final night of shooting, Callie and I sat on the rooftop of the rented soundstage. A few crew members played cards near the stairs. The stars were faint, dulled by the city haze. You ever think about how it all started? She asked. All the time. You ever regret it? I turned toward her. No. You? She didn't answer right away, then nodded slightly. Sometimes I regret who I had to become to survive it. But you didn't stay her. She looked at me, eyes softer now, but just as sharp. No, she said. I became someone better. We sat there for a long time, not talking, just breathing. 2 people who'd made it out, and then built something that mattered, together.